Hello everyone and welcome to This Nintendo Life. My name is NBZ and this is episode 42. Our lives, Bally, now have meaning. And of course, I've already said his name, but here he is. For your pleasure, Bally, welcome to the show.
Hello NBZ, glad to be here. Super excited for our E3 2015 special.
Well, this is technically not our special. I mean, that's going to be after the Nintendo Digital event, but this, of course, is our prediction show before E3 happens, where we basically come up with a bunch of bullshit that is all going to be proved wrong in a couple of weeks' time.
It's facts. These are things that are going to happen.
Right. Well, you can believe in your own jibbity jupe, but I won't, because frankly, it's Nintendo and they will do whatever the hell they want. So so we're going to be talking E3 predictions later in the show. We're going to start with our standard stuff, but Bally, how about you tell us how the full layout is going to go?
So as usual, we've got what we've been playing, and then we are going to have an extended segment to talk about last year's predictions, what went down then. We've got some new predictions for this year. And we're going to talk about some of your emails that you sent to us with your predictions for this year as well.
It's a prediction-filled, lovely, juicy, extended part of the show. And I'm sure people will enjoy it. Because I always love listening to other people's predictions this time of year. It's always a good, fun thing to do. It's silly, but I derive enjoyment from it. And a lot of people do, so it's a good thing. Alright, well, let's kick things off. Let's get into gear here. And Bally, you have conquered, one might say, not just a mountain, but a fucking planetoid of some description, as you have come to the end of a long journey.
Yeah, so I completed this little game called Xenoblade.
Oh, I think this deserves a round of applause. Bally, well done. I'm proud of you for making this achievement, really.
And as I'm sure you're aware, MBZ, the end of Xenoblade absolutely destroyed me. It absolutely
did terrible
killed
things
me.
to your soul, and I didn't have the same experience, which is why I found it kind of perplexing that you get to the end of Xenoblade and, you know, for the most part, a lot of the hardest boss fights that were happening throughout the game were behind me. I went into the last boss battle and just basically cleaned my way through first time and was like, yeah, that was alright, that wasn't too bad, it was pretty fun, and saw the end cutscene and it was awesome. You were a little bit of a different matter, shall we say.
Yes, I don't even want to describe how long and how many times I actually spent on that last boss, but let's just say it was a ridiculous, ordeal.
It got to the point where I had to put my own disc of Xenoblade into my system to check what stats my characters had at the end game and what pieces of armor they had. And I even had to walk Bally through an area to find a chest that had a piece of gear that I thought would help him in the final battle.
That's
the lengths we went to try and get you to finish this game.
Yes, and your help did help in the end, because a few tries after we went over what was wrong with my party and what I needed to fix, I did eventually beat the final boss. And we've started on a negative here, and I don't want that to be my don't want that to be the listener at home's impression of my impression of Xenoblade, however I worded that, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
I love this game. I really, really, really love this game. Just because I struggled with some of the more technical RPG-related stuff sort of not throughout, but near the end on some of the final bosses. I don't want that to sour the tone at all, because I think this is the best video game story I've ever experienced, and it's such a cool finale. I don't want to spoil the story for people out there.
Well, we should mention that we are planning to do a full-blown spoiler cast for Xenoblade. And that will probably come after E3, just because we're doing a lot in preparation for that, and obviously it's going to be very busy. But after E3, we are putting out a spoiler cast where we will just sit here for however long, hash out the details of the story and the spoilers and what happened. And if you have played it, if you finished it, you can listen to that and enjoy it, and save it for another time if you haven't beaten the game yet. So hopefully people will enjoy that discussion when it comes.
Yeah, and I really look forward to that discussion because I feel like my hands are almost tied right now trying to talk about this game without mentioning the details of the story, because for me that was the best part of this game, was the story. And through those challenging bits near the end of the game, that was the main thing, bar none, that was driving me on, saying, Bally, you have to finish this game. Like, you need to find out what happens. What on earth is going to happen to all these characters? And it just keeps driving you through. And I've said before on the show, but like every time that the game felt quite grindy and like the story was kind of slowing down, you'd always be hit with a massive cutscene, and there might be a new character, stuff would happen. It would just keep the momentum going. And so after the story, I think my favorite thing was probably like the world creation. Like the world in Xenoblade is absolutely unbelievable, and I words can't really describe how awesome exploring those lands feels, because they are just so expansive, so colorful. This game is incredibly colorful. Like, you can look at loads of amazing open world games today, and I'm struggling to think of one that has as much color as Xenoblade.
Or indeed as much variety in terms of areas and landscapes that you go to. And, let's talk a little about Witcher 3 being extremely gorgeous, because I'm going to talk about that later. But even that game doesn't have the variety in terms of locales that Xenoblade offers. It's very, very different and kind of stands out because of it. So,
and like I've never, other than Pokemon, and we've had this debate, but not really, Harvest Moon, it's not really an RPG, it's a life sim. But like, I really have little to no experience of RPGs.
So how was it then as your first RPG? Do you think you jumped in at the deep end, or was it okay?
I think that the deepest parts of this game in terms of mechanics do get relatively heavy. Like, for me at least, especially someone who doesn't know what works with what. So stuff like the gem crafting in this game and mixing up party members. I feel like the game is really good early on at explaining a lot of the mechanics and the battle mechanics and the collecting mechanics, and how to progress through the game successfully and overcome the monsters that you're fighting. I feel like it gradually kind of teeters away and moves away from explaining everything as clearly, and to the point where if you're someone like me, you're kind of left out in the cold a bit. And there were parts of this game where I'd like maybe die on a boss and be like, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I have no idea how to change my party, to adjust the gems, adjust the equipment, which party members to use, quite frankly, and work out how to overcome this challenge. And I feel like more effort could have been made in forcing you to mix up your party a bit more, perhaps.
They do it kind of a couple times in the game, but it's very short period of time, and the challenge you have to get over isn't that high. So
exactly, I'm pretty sure you can even avoid combat almost entirely with a couple of those scenarios. And I'm not. If it had forced you to mix up party members, I really hope that it could have also explained more how to use those party members. So, for example, Dunban and Melia are two really interesting, really cool characters that are obviously very important to the story, and I just wish I'd used both of them more. Melia is just such a cool character with her use of ether and the way that she's got all these buffs that buff your party, and then you can unleash them all at once in an attack. And even though I can explain that to you, I still don't understand the technical aspects of how that works.
Right, like, I mean, neither did I. I really only used Melia once in the game, and it was for a boss battle that, frankly, I couldn't finish otherwise without using her. And you did the exact same thing. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the idea where you're controlling one party member, but then you have two other party members controlled by the computer. I feel like the game almost says, right, well, the computer's controlling these two characters, so you don't worry your pretty little head. You can just control Shulk and you'll be okay. And while that works fine, like 99% of the time, that 1% where that formula of just you worry about your own character and it'll kind of work itself out. When it doesn't work, it's really frustrating, and I just wish the game did more for RPG noobs like me to just kind of give you a helping hand and say, hey, actually, there's a real weakness with, say, your ether defense or something in your party. You might want to look into that. Or I don't know how the game would even overcome this issue, but I just found elements particularly challenging, and I think that someone who has knowledge of RPGs would probably find this game a hell of a lot easier than I did.
I mean, even then, like, I've played some RPGs before Xenoblade, but there are so many, like, little things where you have to keep track of your AP, you have to keep track of affinity between party members, you have to keep track of your equipment, your gems. Like, there are multiple different things. Skill links, we haven't even talked. Like, there are so many variables that come down to creating your character that it's just kind of a little bit intimidating.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, for the amount they're trying to bite off, they do a really good job of, like, because those early tutorial sort of, not cutscenes, they're sort of tutorial slideshows that you get earlier in the game. They do work really well, and I really didn't come to you much, I feel like, at the start of the game, MBZ, saying, oh, I'm really, really super confused about this. I just kind of learnt it from the game itself, and it was more the later game where I'd come to you like, I'm really struggling with X.
yeah, right.
So, yeah, but I just think like I said, the story and the world creation just dragged this game along for me. The RPG elements were great and tough, but they definitely weren't like something that naturally appealed to me.
Sure.
But that story, that world, and that story and that world would only work in an RPG. If this was like an action game or something, like an action adventure, I think you'd get quite burned out. Like, because RPGs, as much as they are tough and long, you can play 3 hours of Xenoblade and not really feel like you've stressed yourself out particularly. Like,
right.
Just naturally exploring.
It's all about the type of game experience it is. I say, for example, like earlier this year, I played One Finger Death Punch, which is this high-octane, super intense thing. I literally couldn't play that game for more than 15 minutes. I tried, and I just wouldn't be able to hold my focus because you are, like, in the moment, so focused for such a short period of time. Like, playing that game for an hour straight, I don't think it would be possible, but absolutely. You can sit for a whole 7 hours with Xenoblade, as I did multiple times, and not get tired or bored of it. So, yeah.
Exactly.
It's a genre thing, really.
So, I mean, overall, I absolutely loved it. I just wish I'd done more party management and more exploration throughout, because it would have, like you said, you get experience from the exploration. You probably naturally find more items, collect more things. So I wish I'd explored a bit more, and I wish I just kept on top of equipment and gems a bit more just throughout. But that's my fault, not so much the game's.
Well, you have an opportunity to fix that coming up later this year, Bally, when its sequel comes out, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of the same elements involved.
I mean, I'm a bit burned out on RPGs right now, but I think the timing of Xenoblade X is going to be a great time for me to jump into that, and that's probably going to be the next big RPG I play, to be honest. And I look forward to it, and yeah, can't wait for us to do this spoiler cast, because like I said, the story, that is my number one thing, and can't wait to delve deep into that.
Well, we certainly will, but before we delve deep into that, how about we dive deep into some ink with a bit of Splatoon, because we have continued to play that over the past couple of weeks, and we've both now beaten the single-player mode, so I thought we'd have a little bit of a chat about that and our ongoing experience. So, Bally, you basically beat the single-player mode in a single sitting, which I think is a little bit insane, but it's totally possible. It's like 3 hours long-ish, maybe a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, I was pushing pretty hard, and it took like maybe 4 hours or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bit.
So it's not a significant part of the game, but I think there's lots of cool stuff. You're super positive on it, Bally. What are some of the things that you took out of the single-player campaign?
I think that the comparison between Mario Sunshine and Galaxy is spot on, and it's like these are short, sharp levels with unique platforms that are floating around, all that kind of thing. I just think that give Mario a gun that where the water or ink, whatever you want to call it, he's spraying affects his jumping, and that's what you have here. Like it just works so well. And just the feedback and the sound design of defeating enemies, while that works great in multiplayer, of course, it's just so nice to just beat up the computer. And obviously, a lot of the computer enemies are very simple. You just point and shoot, and they're dead very, very quickly. And like just, I feel that the single player, although there's no time limit at all, certainly on many of the more difficult stages, I feel you have such an advantage the faster you move about. And I think that might be the case with any shooter, but just the faster you can move about, do stuff, shoot things, the safer you are, the more you can kill on screen in front of you more quickly, obviously. And I just think that it's nice that there isn't a time limit, because you can just kind of go on a massive shooting spree and then duck for cover, take a breath and go for it again. I think that there's elements of the single player missions that work really well for that, where there are times where you're just completely bombarded by enemies.
Right, I think certainly with like those giant fat enemies that drop the ink strikes, those levels you have to go quick to get through.
Absolutely, yeah. But I love it. I really, really enjoyed it. And it's a shame that it was relatively short, but it is such a multiplayer focused game, and I think that was a pretty awesome single player mode to add to it. So yeah, super positive from me.
Well, I think there are elements that are great about it. Like, I love the mechanics of the sponges, right, which soak up ink and expand.
Yeah.
And I think it would be really nice if they took some of those things and like created multiplayer maps based around them, because they aren't really represented on that side of the game, and I think it would kind of shake things up. And you know, the multiplayer maps are different, but I don't think they're different enough. So adding those elements could help. I think there are problems though when we come to things like, this whole stage is just the multiplayer map, but you've got to shoot octolings who are in it, right? Like, there are multiple stages like that, where it's like, you're just going around the multiplayer maps that you've already played, collecting these dots, which aren't in necessarily interesting areas for design purposes. They're just dropped on the floor, and you're just going around shooting enemies as you go through the multiplayer levels. So that felt like a bit too much reskinning and not super new, interesting ideas. And there's not many levels as it is. There's like 27 total. So when you take at least 6 of those and just designate them to that, it kind of cheapens it a little bit for me. There are also parts where I just think, I don't know, I just feel like I'm walking along and shooting enemies and not doing too much interesting mechanics-wise. There's, you know, the moment here and there, but it was fun, but I just didn't think it was kind of this jaw-dropping, innovative thing like I feel the multiplayer is. And certainly, by the end of it, you know, you get to the final boss, that thing is like this stupid spike in difficulty.
I loved it. I thought it was awesome.
Okay, so there's a thread on NeoGAF saying Splatoon's final boss is the best final boss in any shooter.
I agree. Well, I've never played any other shooter,
well, you're
but
just being a fanboy.
I am, absolutely. Yeah.
But I can't agree with that sentiment, because I don't think it's particularly interesting mechanically. It shows off all the mechanics that you fight it with in about like 5 minutes or less than that, and then it just continues on and on and on, and all it does is just keeps getting harder and throwing more shit at you, and just kind of unfair in some segments, really, that I found, which was just like, it gets to a point where it's not fun anymore, it's frustrating. And I got almost to the end of beating it, and I died, and I was like, well, fuck, I'm not trying that again. I turned my Wii U off, and I sat here, and I didn't go back to it until like an hour later, because it was just super fucking annoying. Like, the rest of the bosses are your standard Mario 3 hits, or Zelda 3 hits and it's dead, and they work perfectly. They're beautifully designed. There are so many interesting ones, like the fish with the teeth you have to shatter and get away from, and like the guy who basically sinks in your own ink. Like, really cool ideas there that are fun and enjoyable, and the perfect length for a boss battle. The final boss was just taking the fucking mick, man. It was stupid. It really didn't deserve to be that long. They should have shortened it. and it kind of tarred the experience for me at the end. It was just a pain in the ass, really. So
I agree it was really tough, but that's also why I loved it. I can kind of also agree that it was a little bit long, but I feel they were just trying to go for something that was epic, and like that formula you were saying before with the 3 hits and it's dead. I think that anyone could have predicted that the final boss would be 3 hits and it's dead, but then all of a sudden they throw this marathon of a boss battle at you at the end. And while
right, I wouldn't even mind if it was 9 hits and it's dead, like triple it. No, they go for like fucking 15. It's dumb. It is like 7 segments longer than it needs to be.
I don't think it's 15. I think it's like
it's something stupid, really.
I think if you're talking in terms of hits, it's about 7 to 10.
I don't agree.
But
it depends how you define hits as well. So
yeah, okay. But I mean, yeah, it's I personally like it, and I actually think this is gonna sound so fanboyish, but like I think some of these bosses are the best Nintendo bosses I've ever seen. And that's partly...
I don't think they're necessarily the best. I just think they're a lot of fun. Like, some of the other bosses are just really good fun.
Yeah, but that's what makes them so awesome. Like,
yeah.
And albeit that I've never really played any other Nintendo games where you actually have, like, a gun in the same way as you do in Splatoon. I mean, obviously Metroid Prime has some awesome bosses, but
I feel like Metroid is much more just hammer the button until it's dead, whereas Splatoon has design around it for the bosses,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say Metroid Prime is like overly over the top with the hammer the button and it's dead, but I do think Splatoon is much better than a game like Metroid at being innovative with the bosses and how to defeat them. And
sure, yeah.
They were definitely the best bit of the single player.
Cool. So yeah, you haven't had much chance to play more multiplayer because you don't have internet access on your Wii U right now.
I mean, I did do a bit of the ranked battle. Got up to a C rank, I think. No, maybe not. I think I'm still C minus. But yeah, I won a few of those matches, and they are so much fun. Like, they're super intense. I was getting like ridiculous KD. Records with like 16-4 on one of them, which I was super chuffed with, and yeah, I really enjoy it. It's like it's a nice mix up to Turf War, so I look forward to more multiplayer modes and look forward to playing more of them.
Yeah, I mean, after going through the single player, I actually unlocked a bunch of guns which were the ones that I really wanted to play with, and now they are basically my favorite guns in the game. The arrow spray, the gold arrow spray is the one that I play with now. It's basically the custom Splattershot Junior, but more powerful, has better range, and just all around better for coverage, and it has basically got me sitting at over 1,000 points every match. Even when I lose the match, I'm still over 1,000 points. So that's why I've kept going with Turf Wars, because you're guaranteed experience as you go through that, and while I'm still leveling up to 20, I want to have matches give me experience every time, whereas if I go into rank battle and I lose, I literally get 0 if the match doesn't turn out in our favor. So I'm going to basically wait and do more ranked battle when I actually hit the level cap, but until then, I think I'm just going to keep grinding away and just enjoying using the weapons that I have, and unlocking new stuff and getting new gear. Did you dip much into the gear yet, Bally?
A little bit, but my favorite at the moment is the NES Zapper. I actually prefer that to the Splattershot Junior just because it fires in a straight line more so than...
It's definitely better for ranked battles, for focus fire.
Yeah, definitely. So that's how I was getting all those kills. But funnily enough, because I've been playing without the online, I've been playing offline for the single player. My special golden gun or whatever you called it hasn't unlocked yet, so I think I'm the wrong level or need to connect online, but I'm sure I'll prefer that to the Zapper.
Yeah, it's a really good fun weapon to use, and loads of people use it, so not surprised. But Splatoon continues on. We'll keep playing it as soon as they just keep putting content out, as long as that happens. They even put the ink brush out recently, which quick thoughts on that. I don't think that's very good. It's fun to run around quickly with, but it doesn't seem very efficient. I think you need to practice a lot with it to get good with the ink brush, but it's a super cool idea. It's very unique.
But I really want to see a tournament mode so we can play some tournaments with the listeners.
Yeah, I hope they add that soon, and it's probably going to come, later in the year. They'll do what they've been doing is every couple of weeks they're like, oh, here's a new thing, and we keep coming back to it. So I'm perfectly fine with that. All right, well, I think that's Splatoon for us. Bali, I have sunk myself into a deep hole, which I don't ever want to climb out of, and I'm not sure I will for a long time. As I mentioned last week, I have The Witcher 3, which is the new hotness right now. Everyone's talking about it. It's getting a lot of nods in terms of, people thinking probably like Game of the Year status. You watched me play some of this, Bally. Before I jump in, I want to give you the floor for a second. Give me your thoughts on the game.
Okay, first of all, visually, it was like the best thing I've ever seen. Now, I've not seen you play many games on your PC, but the frame rate you were running that at and the resolution was mind-blowing. It looked goddamn beautiful. And I just thought that was the first thing that hit me. And it's the world design just looks like it is quite generic fantasy, but they do it so well, I think. And I just loved the way that it looked. In terms of what you were doing and the villages, exploring the villages, going on short quests, exploring these caves and things, fighting monsters and things. All of that was just amazing. Like, the villages have so much character.
It really feels like it's a lived-in world,
Absolutely.
Like, it feels like these people are actually real, and the thing that backs that up is every character, even the tiniest of side quests, they have full dialogue. There are even multiple dialogue options that you get to choose as you go through those things, and you just think, like, how much was spent on the voice acting alone for this game, because it is staggering. It's ridiculous, the amount that's in here. So that's something that really blew my mind. We actually went on a quest when you were here and into this dungeon, which it was really funny because the dungeon was basically a cheese dungeon. So it was my worst nightmare. If you don't know me and my food habits, and Bali has known this for a very long time, I literally am afraid of cheese. Like, I fucking can't stand it unless it's basically on pizza
cheese
or like.
Is so good.
Right, basically, but raw cheese like fucking freaks me the hell out. So
love a bit of raw cheese.
It's this dark dungeon, and you're just going through these areas, and like you can't breathe because of the smell of the cheese. Basically, instead of poison gas, it's just cheese stench that's happening. And like we go through, we find this guy who's like lying on a bench, and he's like got tubes and shit in his nose and his ears, like pumping cheese stuff inside him. It's really fucking weird and obscure and crazy and like more funny than serious, which is strange when you have like this really dank, dark setting. What did you think of that like whole thing, Bally?
I definitely preferred the big, expansive open world fields riding on your horse than the creepy dungeon, cheese dungeon. But I mean, that's what these open world games have to do. They have to mix things up, make things interesting, and yeah, it's funny. It's cool. It's nice. It's a nice change, and this idea that there are these caves and dungeons out there that have some big ass monsters and things like that in it to fight. Like, that's just really awesome.
Yeah, it kind of like opens the scope for it even more because not only do you have this giant world to play in, like that quest was completely optional, off to the side, just a random question mark that popped up while I was exploring, and I probably wouldn't have found it any other way unless I just like walked across that guy at another point in time. Like, it wouldn't have been on a notice board or anything. And this whole section, this whole underground area, completely designed and fully fleshed out, and like a lot of people will just completely miss that and never see it, and it's a full big part of the game. So I just think like the detail and the level and lengths to which they go are kind of crazy. I saw a thread on NeoGAF today which said that the money spent on Witcher 3 was about $35 million if you were to translate it from
wow.
What's the currency in Poland? Is it euros, or do they still have their own currency?
Yes, Poland's euros as far as I'm aware.
Okay, well, apparently the budget was 32 million and then 35 million for marketing. For me, like, that actually sounds quite low considering the scope of this game. I feel like a lot of other games go, way higher than that. Like GTA, I believe, was 100 million or 500 million or something crazy.
Wow.
GTA 5. So the fact that they did this for 32 is kind of staggering. It really.
What do you think Zelda Wii U will be?
What, money-wise?
Yeah, money-wise.
Oh, geez, I have no idea. I'd say it's probably going to be the most expensive game Nintendo's ever made.
Probably, yes.
But in terms of ballpark figures, I don't know, because of the yen and because it's all in Japanese currency.
Yeah.
It's hard to pin
But
that
this
down.
game, like, the Zelda comparisons are obvious, but I mean, even though I don't own it, that game has just made me so pumped for Zelda Wii U. It's unreal, because just an open world fantasy game. We've had Skyrim. I mean, you've got your issues with Skyrim, MBZ, but I mean, that was
Well, I've never played Skyrim, but the problem I have with it is that it basically forces you to be in first person. If you play in third person, it's doable, but like the combat stuff doesn't work as well, and I just don't like. I like the third person exploration camera angle. I don't like first person when you're walking around places. Not to mention sometimes it gives me motion sickness. So
right. And you've got to have that sort of, Batman, Assassin's Creed, goodness sake, what's that Lord of the Rings game that came out? Shadow of Mordor fight style, where it's kind of like a slick beat 'em up.
Yeah, and I mean, Witcher isn't quite the same as that.
Oh, right.
Like,
is it not
in
similar?
terms of its combat style, you have to mix up your sword moves with, like, signs, they're called, which are basically weak magical spells that you have access to. So one is like fire, one is like a telekinetic blast, one is a shield that protects you, allows you to take a couple of hits without taking damage. But it's very kind of animation based, and if you're not paying attention, then you'll get hit. It's a sort of thing where you don't, like in Mario, if you get hit, you have like a couple of frames where you flash and you can't get hit again. Like, you can just get hit multiple times in a row without being staggered back. So you have to be careful with it. It's kind of a bit more of an old school.
I like
combat
how
style.
you used Mario as a comparison. That was fun.
Well, it's just the first thing that came to my brain. As you know, you have invincibility frames, right?
Yeah,
And
Nintendo loves a few invincibility frames. You're right.
right, so the danger in Witcher is you are surrounded by like 4 enemies, and even if they're like 6 levels lower than you, they can put on the hurt pretty quickly. Because if they're all hitting you at the same time, your bar is just like going down because you don't get like frames to run away from them. You just get hit. So you do need to be careful and kind of draw people away and take enemies on one at a time, and give yourself space. But that's something that I like about it. It's more of a patience-based combat system. Like, it's not all about guns blazing going in. You need to kind of sit back and prepare yourself a little. So there's so much more to talk about, and I don't know if I want to get that deep into it. Like, a few things here in terms of world creation. There's a quest that I went on where this guy's like, oh, there's this beast who's killed our men, it's out in the forest, please can you go find it, we'll pay you. So I go off on the trail, like, sniff it out, find this area, and I come across this elf who like points an arrow at me, and I'm like, alright, take me to your leader. And they take me to this female elf who's their leader, and she's like, oh, there's no beast, we're just this band of rebellious elves who are killing their men instead. So it turned out, no, there's no creature, it's just these they're called the Scoia'tael, and they play a big role in Witcher 2. They're basically like a rebellion elf faction, and in Witcher 2 you get the decision to join them or to join like the human side, and I actually chose their side in Witcher 2. So I feel like more sympathetic towards them, because in this world, dwarves and elves and like non-humans basically are looked down upon racially. So it's kind of giving that message through fantasy tropes instead of using actual real world races. And so for that reason, like, I kind of side with them a lot, and I was like, no, I don't want to kill you, it's fine. So I left them to do their own thing. I went back to the guard and I was like, right, there wasn't a beast there were just these elves in the woods. And the guy was like, did you kill them? I was like, no, because I like them. And he was like, well, fine, I'm not paying you because you didn't kill them. And he's like, right, we're going to deal with them later. So I'm like, oh shit, I didn't get my money, but at least the elves are okay, they should do alright.
Good guy.
But here's the thing, about 10 hours later, game time wise, I'm just wandering past the main gate of the big city, and behind me, I hear a voice which says, "Vatgern, you betrayed us!" And Vatgern is basically the elven word for Witcher. I turn around, and it's the leader of that female elf troop, and she just, like, comes out and attacks me. I'm like, holy shit! Like, her troop got attacked by those guys, and she survived, and she sought me out because she knows that I've basically ratted her troop out and betrayed her, and she's after my blood. And at that point, I was super high level, so she only took a couple of hits to kill, but it's like, wow, that level of detail where this, like, single side quest that is seemingly meaningless comes back, like, 10 hours later, floored me. Absolutely floored me. And that stuff happens again and again and again, and it never gets old. It is always refreshing and interesting and fascinating.
That is so cool. That is just amazing. Like, because in a fantasy setting, I bet it's easy to... Don't get me wrong, it's incredibly hard to design an open world game, but I think the initial creating the world on paper, while it's hard to do from a financial perspective, is kind of, you know what you're trying to achieve. But that ability to create all these plot lines that interact and create a real living, breathing world on that physical world that you create, like, to nail that and get it so right is really cool for this game. And like, I've not played like an open world fantasy game before, but it's like, you know, it's the whole Dungeons and Dragons realized in a video game that I feel like a lot more games are doing better than they used to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the kind of setting that I really like, and it's something that, again, I feel like you'll like this as well, but it's something that turns me off most open world games, is that they're urban environments like Watch Dogs and Grand Theft Auto, like they're
modern day urban, yeah.
Right, they're all set in cities and these places which I don't feel are that interesting to me personally. And like, on that note, you know, you like something like Assassin's Creed because it is more historically
definitely.
based
That's a
in
big
that
appeal.
setting.
Yeah.
So that's why you probably kind of are more drawn towards that. But even in something like Assassin's Creed and like Red Dead Redemption, I've said before about how I don't like going out and doing side quests because I feel like they're meaningless and they don't add anything. And that's the difference here with Witcher, is that everything feels like it matters.
Yeah.
And I care about it, and I care about the world and the characters in it and the lore, and I like, it's the sort of thing where it is made me feel like I should actually go and read the books that these games are based on, like the Polish
That's
original
really
short
cool.
stories,
Yeah.
because I really like the world and its setting and all the lore behind it. So and the other thing is that it's an RPG, right? So it's to your benefit to go out and do side stuff because you're always gaining experience and leveling up, and that's a good feeling. So it helps in that sense also. But man, I'm at 45 hours now in Witcher 3. I'm not even out of like the first act of the game. I've just got to the third large area, which is just stunning. It is this like mountain escape where you can climb up these snowy hills and see like for miles in the distance, and is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in a game, and I'm really excited to explore that landmass and just have a good time in it. And I will probably just be talking about Witcher in the future until I finish it, because I don't want it to stop, and this is clearly going to take me a long time to beat, but I don't care because I love it that much. And it is now challenging Ori and the Blind Forest for my game of the year.
Of course it is.
And I didn't think that would happen, Bally. I was so like resolute and certain about how much I love that game.
You weren't even going to get this game, were you, really?
Well, I was interested in it, but the real reason I have it is because it came free with my graphics card, right? So I managed to snag a deal where I got a brand new graphics card which was powerful enough to run it, and I got access to it. And because I had that opportunity, I played The Witcher 2, which I'd had for a long time, and I loved The Witcher 2, so it basically prepped me for this game, and this game is like 6 times better than that. So yeah, it's a happy time for me. I'm very pleased with it, and man, Bally, one day you can get a Steam box maybe and play it, but I don't see any other avenue to go down right now for you.
No,
unfortunately.
absolutely. It's another one that I'm just going to add to that list of games I can't play, but I'd love to try one day. But yeah.
Well, there we go. We've
match
talked.
that, Nintendo.
Match that. Come on, Zelda. pull out the big ones. So that is going to be our segment. Thank you for sticking with us through the stuff we've been playing, and we are going to now get to the meat of the show with our Nintendo E3 predictions. So do not go anywhere. We will be right back. Okay, everyone, I hope your seatbelts are on. I hope you are strapped in, because we are all aboard the E3 hype train.
Choo-choo.
And it is time to get out of the station. We've been here sitting long enough, Bally. A whole fucking year since last E3. I'm tired. I'm angry. I want E3 now. I want it in my veins. I want a medical doctor to come and inject it into my face. How are you feeling about the E3 hype train, Bally?
I'm pretty pumped. Definitely. Like this is the time where I feel like our podcast can shine the most.
Yes, because we like to get excited.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, there's loads of stuff to talk about. We are going to do our E3 predictions. We asked some of you people for some of yours, and we have for those coming up. But first of all, Bally, as master of listening back to old podcasts and writing things down,
I'm a librarian.
You're the librarian. You listened back to our last year's podcast, and I don't believe we actually went over the predictions last year for our reaction show, so I guess we're just going to go over them now, a year later, and see what we predicted back then, and laugh at ourselves, because clearly we were just terribly wrong. So let's go through these, Bally. What were our predictions from last year?
So last year you predicted there would be a 2D Metroid on 3DS.
Okay, that happened, right? We loved that game.
I love it. It's a great
10 out of 10.
Metroid. Yeah.
Yep, good game.
You predicted that a brand new IP would use the NFC figures, and you thought that game was going to be the game that Miyamoto still is working on.
That's interesting. So we did get a brand new IP that did use NFC figures, which is in the form of Amiibo.
That's definitely worth at least half a point.
At least, yeah. It wasn't necessarily Miyamoto's game, because he's really working on Star Fox and stuff, but I'm happy that I got that one nailed down. It felt like last year really felt like the time for a new IP. I'm less kind of optimistic about that prospect this year, but you never know, because, that was a great thing, and we're really enjoying that game, so I'm very happy about it.
So you also thought, and I guess there's a possibility this could still be the case because we've not seen gameplay, but probably not, is you thought Shin Megami Cross Fire Emblem was going to be a fighting game.
Oh yeah, I remember that. And then I realized afterwards that they had already announced that it was going to be an RPG.
Oh, right. Okay.
So that was a really stupid prediction in the first place. But I've always kind of thought I would love a Fire Emblem fighting game in the style of Soul Calibur. Because Soul Calibur is so weapon-based.
Amazing, yeah.
I think a 2D fighter Fire Emblem in the style of Soul Calibur would be fucking incredible.
What about Zelda Cross Fire Emblem that was in that Soul Calibur style?
Oh yeah, that'd be
And
totally
then
cool.
obviously you already have Link and Soul Calibur too, but yeah.
Sure, yeah.
And then
That would work wonders.
your more wacko idea, as if that was previous idea wasn't wacko enough, was Metroid cross F-Zero cross Star Fox. And this is like an idea that a lot of people have said numerous times of this, that they have these three sort of space-related franchises that just need to jump in bed together because they just work together so well, don't they? Like they just need
Well,
to...
as some to more degrees than others.
Yeah.
But I think Star Fox and F-Zero definitely work better together. Metroid's kind of a little bit more serious with its tone and more a little bit different. But,
Isolationist.
Yeah, isolationist indeed. So yeah, that was a stupid prediction, but whatever. That's the point of stupid predictions.
So I think out of all of that, can we agree you get half a point?
Sure, I'll take half a
for
point.
your Splatoon, although we know that Miyamoto didn't really work on it. So
Well, he's probably in the credits. I read through
yeah.
the credits recently, so he's probably there. But yeah, not super involved in that project, I don't think.
So my first prediction was that we already assumed, and we were right, that Zelda would be, we'd see Zelda. So I thought the Zelda art style would be identical or look like the tech demo that they showed at 2012, 2013?
It was 2012,
2012.
I believe, yeah.
So it's a very kind of photorealistic looking Link fighting a massive spider.
Oh, see, I don't even think that was photorealism. That was
No, you're right. It was more photorealistic than what we saw.
Right.
Yeah. So
But
I assume
it felt like the Twilight Princess art style, but souped up in a more kind of characterful way.
yes.
But yeah, we didn't really get that with Zelda.
Yeah,
We got
I'd
a
say
very different
that
thing.
it's somewhere different, more similar to Skyward Sword, almost what we saw.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
even elements from Wind Waker. Certainly the lighting with that bloom. So yeah, I
Sure.
think I was pretty well off on that one. I also thought there would be a 3D Metroid game announced on the Wii U. We live in hope, but
Yep.
not yet.
We'll
yet.
also die in Hope Valley.
Oh god. I thought there'd be an F-Zero game that would be announced as a tie-in with Captain Falcon being in Smash Brothers.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, they did do that trailer with Falcon with Robin and Lucina, which was the Smash announcement for him. Unfortunately, no F-Zero tie.
And you also said last year, MBZ, that you'd be willing to try out a new F-Zero if it came out. So
oh yeah,
I'm gonna hold on to that nugget.
Sure. I'll try one out. Absolutely. If Nintendo fucking put the effort in to make a game, then I'll do it. The question is whether they'll do that or not, which is probably very unlikely. Although that having been said, we got lots of F-Zero last year in the sense of Mario Kart, right? Because of all the DLC that came out, and even earlier this year with Big Blue, there's lots of F-Zero stuff happening, but it's just not actual F-Zero stuff.
Not yet, but I'm sure we might come to that later. But anyway,
no, dear, Valleys.
And then my wacko idea, which I am going to fight my cause for in gaining half a point here. Now hear me out.
No.
So my wacko idea was Advance Wars cross Fire Emblem.
You're going to
I
argue
would
that Codename
argue
Steam is Advance Wars cross Fire Emblem.
Steam is in a really funny way a little bit of both those games put into one. So I will fight my corner that I deserve a half point.
I'll give you a quarter of a point for that, Valley.
But that has to be doubled because it was my wacko idea.
I don't know about that. Well, you know what? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
useless
matter
anyway.
at all.
So
anyway,
it's interesting that kind of came to pass in a strange kind of confluence of events.
Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, well, there you go. Interesting. So those were our last year ones. This year, do you want to go ahead and do those predictions and review them after the fact in our next show, or do you want to hold on to them for next year and just keep this being a yearly thing instead of going back to them?
I'm sure we can mention them in our E3 reaction podcast. I don't know.
Sure, they'll probably come up naturally anyway.
Yeah.
So. Okay, cool. Well, that was fun. We didn't do too great. Half points each, if you're even going to count those. But,
I'm taking it.
Look, it's hard to predict, and this is something we should really make a point of, is trying to predict Nintendo is trying to predict, I don't know when the next World War is going to happen, because
that was dark.
Well, I'm trying to think of something more lighthearted, but I don't know. Something about the global scale of a world war and Nintendo's scale in which they operate aligned to my brain. Don't ask me how. But the point is, you can't predict Nintendo. They just go off on their own train and march to the beat of their own drum, and they just put out games that you literally had no idea. Like, no one was going to predict Splatoon last year. Nobody. And that was a thing that happened. So, yeah, there's going to be stuff that we get wrong, but that's all in the fun of the prediction game. So how about we get into those predictions, Bally? It's time for our E3 2015 Nintendo predictions. And I will give you the honour of going first. So let's jump in.
So my first prediction is that maybe this is a bit safe, but I hope you'll give me credit that it's not that safe. I think there's going to be a very small download, unannounced game that you will be able to download straight after the digital event, and I predict it's going to blow me away. Like, I don't know whether it will be a puzzle platformer or something different, like puzzle platformer like Box Boy or something else, but I feel like Nintendo are going to drop that one again, where they go, and here's a new thing and it's awesome, and you can have it right now. I feel like they're going to do that with a small game that we're going to enjoy, and I think that's going to be on 3DS.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, they have made kind of a habit of doing this with a lot of eShop games after their Nintendo Directs. The last couple of times, sometimes it's a third-party thing or like an indie developed game. Rarely it's kind of your own Nintendo branded stuff, but they do like to do that, and I feel like a lot of the time it aligns with kind of the Thursday download, the standard time when Nintendo downloads go up on the eShop. This being happening on a Tuesday, maybe they're just gonna, it's E3, so they can release shit whenever they want, obviously. But that makes me a little bit more hesitant to it, though it's not really well founded on anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's the thing, I think, is that there will be, obviously indie eShop reels, and I question, is it going to be something from an indie developer, or is it going to be a Nintendo published, created in-house eShop game like Pushmo or like Box Boy?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident it'll be in-house. And it might be a puzzle platformer, but I mean, it'd be quite nice if it wasn't, and that'd be interesting. Like, I just love the idea of a slightly smaller, cheaper. I mean, Box Boy wasn't really that short at all, so it doesn't even have to be that short, but just a slightly smaller, cheaper game that you get hyped about it, and then while you're in the hype zone, you can buy it and play it and complete it, and I think that'd be nice. I really enjoyed doing that with Box Boy.
I think the couple of times they've done this, it's been stuff like NES Remix. I believe was like one of the first ones they did it.
Yes.
I think they also did it with the Dr. Luigi game. So again, like kind of these sub-tier leaning on their old franchises.
I think
kind
they
of
did
stuff.
it with Sub Wars.
Maybe they did, yeah.
So I think there's been like 4 or 5 that are just, here's a cool thing, you can have it now.
They might have done it with like the Pokemon Rumble or Shuffle or whatever as an extra thing.
Yeah, don't get started.
yeah. Let's hope it's not that. That would be pretty terrible. But yeah, I think that if you're going along with this prediction, it would probably be using a well-known character as opposed to introducing something new like Box Boy and putting them in a different setting, like Dr. Luigi. Is there any more detail you want to go into that if you want to make a bold prediction with another character?
Let's go for 2D platformer. So think Gunman Clive, but made by Nintendo.
They make so many 2D platformers anyway.
I don't care. They're going to make a short, quick, fun version of something with a big Nintendo character that you're going to be able to just pick up straight after, have a really good time, and it won't take them too much development time, and we'll see it at E3.
I disagree with that 100% because I think if they're going to do a 2D platformer with a known Nintendo mascot, they're going to put it in a box and charge you
You forced
money
me into
for
a
it.
corner. And then
Well, you better come up with better answers. Come up with better answers to E3, Bally. Don't crumble under the pressure.
Hacking me down here after putting me out to dry.
Well, yeah. Look, This is what
We'll
happens.
see. We'll
see. Okay, cool.
What is
I'm
your
down with that.
first prediction, MBZ?
Well, I'm going to cheat here because I'm going to.
Oh, so you're allowed to cheat. You're allowed to force me into a corner, and then you're going to cheat. This
I
is fair.
host the damn show, Bally. This is my goddamn show, in the words of Garnett Lee. This is my damn show. So last year and every year for probably the last 10, I've predicted 2D Metroid, and I'm gonna just have this as my stalwart. This is just my consistent prediction. I'm not gonna include this as part of my 3, but this is just I'm just putting this down there. Couple caveats: it's going to be developed by Next Level Games. It's going to be on 3DS. We know that Next Level were working on a Metroid game before Nintendo approached them to do Luigi's Mansion 2. As a result of that, I think that they've gone back to that project now, and they're working on it. It may be in that kind of Guacamelee style art style they did before, maybe something completely new, but I am putting all my money that that is going to be Next Level's game.
When's it coming out?
I think it's going to be it's going to be like a... I feel like November doesn't make sense for Metroid,
Okay.
so perhaps it's going to be like an early 2016 game, like a kind of end of March
What about
type of thing.
that awkward Captain Toad time?
Yeah, that was really awkward though. You know, that thing came out in December for
that was
North
weird.
America, and there was January for us, and then it was like even earlier for us because of a weird snafu, and street gates were being broken and all that shit. But I could see that. I could see that maybe sneaking in there as a 3DS title. Nintendo doesn't seem to have a big 3DS title for the holiday. There's no Pokemon game announced yet, and I'm not sure if there will be one. So Metroid could fill that slot, but yeah, I'm kind of holding out hope on that. So yeah, that's my Metroid prediction. That just happens every year. We roll with it, and it goes until it happens, and then I can stop predicting it. But until then, I'm forced into a corner. It's like Colin Moriarty in The Last Guardian. It's never gonna get not predicted. It's gonna happen. So my real first prediction is going to be Super NES Remix, and very similar to you in the fact that it's going to be this downloadable game that they announced, and I don't think it's going to be released after or during the Nintendo digital event. I think it's going to be maybe a couple of weeks or so out, maybe a month out, and they're going to just give it like a little bit of pre-release hype, and it's going to feature Link to the Past mixed with Super Metroid and Mario World and Yoshi's Island and all these Super Nintendo classics.
Do you think they're going to make more of an effort to mix? This is quite a good prediction, by the way, I must say. But do you think they'll make more of an effort to mix the genres, so actually stick Link into the world of, say, Super Mario World?
Yeah,
like more so than they did with just NES Remix, which are both games that we've still not played.
Yeah, and I think I've stayed away from them for good reason, because there's a lot of stuff in there which is like, I don't know if this is really worth it, because most of those games is just playing those games in bite-sized chunks, and there's not enough of the crossover stuff. So I think if they want this to do well and for people to get really excited about it, they have to push the crossover stuff way more. Like, give me a full level where I play Super Metroid, but I am Yoshi, Give me that kind of crossover where I have to use Yoshi's power-ups to go through Meridia and try and use his eggs to fight enemies, and like use his power-ups to get to places that Samus wouldn't be able to get to. That kind of going back and changing the design and making it more interesting is the sort of thing that I want out of the Super NES Remix.
I would love that if you can fight one of the bosses from Super Metroid with a Yoshi firing eggs. That would be amazing.
It would be so cool, because it takes these design ideas that were meant for something and completely put into something else. And Metroid and Yoshi works because of that firing egg mechanic. Is almost like missiles being shot out. And you can do that with loads of different.
And is this going to be Wii U or 3DS or both?
This is definitely going to be Wii U. I think, obviously, later down the line, it could be 3DS, but I think it may be new 3DS, and exclusive for new 3DS.
Yeah, that makes sense, actually.
Yeah, because, I mean...
Because we all know that the 3DS can't play Super Nintendo games. So
right, it's not powerful enough. That's the big deal there. But that seems like something that's probably likely, and, hey, maybe they'll just do another NES remix and it'll be kind of similar to that, but I hold out hope that it'll be more interesting, and that's really kind of the fundamental idea behind this game is that it's more of a crossover. So hopefully that'll happen. We'll see. So there's my first prediction. And my Metroid prediction, which is just every year.
Which is just tattooed on your forehead by now.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I just walk down the street like in a Metroid outfit the whole day. All day.
You called it a Metroid outfit? Yes.
No, I mean I literally dressed up as a Metroid. Yeah.
Okay, I thought I was gonna.
You don't catch me out. You don't catch me out, Bally. That's not how this works.
Hey Metroid. Right. Well, my second prediction is new 3DS related.
Okay.
And it's also the new reward system related. So I think on a specific day, and I'm gonna say that this is gonna be this autumn, or as you say in the United States, fall. Some point early fall, early autumn. On this day, they're gonna launch the new reward system, and on this day, they're gonna say, right, all those virtual console games are now going to be available on the new 3DS. So they're going to link the Wii U's system with the new 3DS system. The new 3DS is going to have this awesome virtual console eShop. They're going to add GameCube games to the mix. And they're going to have not a code system, they're going to have an automatic system where when you digitally download games, you get points, and with those points, you spend them on virtual console games. So this is just the next step in unifying everything, adding GameCube to the mix, giving you another reason to get a new 3DS that still doesn't completely divide the market, because they're saying, hey, you're not dividing the market because you can still buy a Wii U, you don't just have to buy the new 3DS, and it's going to be the next step.
Very interesting. I have a very similar prediction.
Okay.
So we can both we can drill down into these and kind of like meet out what both of us think. On my end, I think that the membership plan is going to do that thing where it obviously crosses the bridges between virtual console software for 3DS and Wii U. The way I think it's going to operate is that if you own a standard 3DS and a Wii U, then you still get cross-buy. So you will have the copy on whichever system you want, but the amount of connectivity between them will not be the same as if you own a new 3DS.
Hold up. So with the old 3DS, is it going to get new virtual console?
What do you mean new virtual console?
So existing on... that's a really bad word to use, new.
You're worse than Nintendo, Bally, new virtual console.
On the current 3DS virtual console, you've got Game Boy games and you have NES games. Those are the only two systems on the virtual console. Are you suggesting they're going to add systems, or you're just suggesting that they're going to implement the original Game Boy and, well, there's already NES on the Wii U to enable the cross-buy?
I think that so currently between both systems, what are the common virtual console platforms? Is it just NES?
In my mind, yes. Yeah, just NES.
Okay. In that sense, it's for the original 3DS, it's going to be NES games that will be transferable between the two, but you will also have the introduction of Game Boy and Game Boy Color games on Wii U to help that transition.
That would be nice.
Additionally, any kind of eShop games, things like Ollie Ollie or Tesla Grad, or these kind of independent games, are basically cross-buy on Wii U and 3DS. Right?
Okay.
So those kind of three levels of things are going to be across those two platforms. I don't think there's going to be any kind of GameCube, N64, whatever. What I do think is that the same thing will apply with new 3DS. However, the difference is that you can cross-play between Wii U and 3DS. So you can basically have a save file that is on one, which you immediately pick up on the other. And you can seamlessly go between them. Save states carry over, all done through the internet.
That is cool.
And that is the new 3DS differential to make it stand out from the standard 3DS. So while you can own it on both systems with the original, if you have the new one, you get the added benefit of that cross-save functionality.
And how does this relate to the rewards, or are you not linking the two?
I didn't say anything necessarily about the rewards because I'm still a little bit unsure about how they're going to roll that out. But I think that's a smart prediction on your part about it being similar to the digital, what was it called? DDP, Digital Download Promotion, or whatever it was, with Wii U originally, where whatever money you spent on eShop games, you got back in percentage-wise.
I feel like it will
credit.
do that seamlessly when you download games, and it'll encourage you to download not first party. What am I trying to say? It'll encourage you to download rather than get retail games.
Right,
But I
so
mean, obviously,
you...
we download virtual console games anyway, so you're still getting a benefit.
Right, and I think it does help to make the difference between the digital and retail space a bit more obvious there, because at the current stage, like, we look at, in the UK anyway, we look at the eShop and we're like, fuck, 50 quid for Splatoon? No thanks, I bought it for 27 on Amazon. Like, that's literally half price. That's fucking ridiculous in terms of the gap. But if you pay 50 squid, should I say, for Splatoon, if you pay that for Splatoon, but you get £5 back, that may be a bit more of a palatable offer.
If that £5 that you're paying on the eShop goes to another game that you know is going to be cross-play between your 3DS and Wii U, it's starting to look more valuable. It's like, hey, Nintendo, take my money. Game, you don't get any of my money. Amazon,
yeah, well,
go
I mean,
away.
Game never gets any
Game
of our
never
money
get
anyway.
the money, but Amazon, your tempting offers are no more.
Yeah, so you were saying about GameCube. Do you think that is going to be introduced as part of new 3DS then? You think it's powerful enough to run that stuff?
That's debatable. I mean, if they can put bloody Xenoblade onto a new 3DS, I feel like there's very few GameCube games that wouldn't work. I mean, they'd obviously need a lot of readjusting, perhaps, and maybe that's a bad comparison because they actually remade the game. They didn't just, port it necessarily. Well, it was a port. I'm getting my words tangled here, but I'm saying that a lot more was done to that game to enable it on the system. So, and I still have an issue with the shoulder buttons on the GameCube because there are still numerous games, including Super Mario Sunshine, where the differential between the squishy shoulder buttons between the actual click and just the squidge, if that makes sense. So when you're squidging the shoulder buttons on GameCube, does make a big difference to gameplay in a game like Super Mario Sunshine, because when you click it in, Mario actually stands on the spot squirting floods. So I'm not sure how they're going to implement that. But
well, I mean, they have more buttons than the GameCube now. They have 2 shoulder buttons on the new 3DS.
Good point. I mean, you could just make the squidge one button and the click another button, if that makes any sense. So yeah, no, you're right. Maybe that's a good way around it. So yeah, I do think it is possible that we could see GameCube on either new 3DS or Wii U.
Yeah, and I think the only problem I have with that would be you probably wouldn't be able to do any kind of cross-save functionality there. It would have to be independent of one another.
Yeah, it might
just because
be
the way
too
that they
much.
probably wouldn't be able to implement save states, so.
Right. It's time for my final prediction.
Okay, Bally, off you go.
I need your a hand here, though, MZ.
All right.
So
I'll give you my hand. I'll push it through my monitor.
I'd like you to do an impression of Captain Falcon's most famous move.
Falcon Punch.
No, but say it in the way he would, like
Falcon Punch.
Okay, great. So you added an accent there.
Okay.
Right? So tell me where you think that accent is from.
Oh, what are we doing here?
Just tell me. Just tell me.
Captain Falcon. He seems like Italian. Seems Italian.
Really?
Maybe?
I wanted
Spanish?
you to say American.
Really?
Yes,
okay,
because
sure.
that accent is definitely from Texas. And do you know what's in Texas?
What's in Texas, Valley?
Retro Studios, because they are working on F-Zero, and it is going to come out in 2016 in the exact Splatoon Mario Kart slot. They're going to push online capabilities, and this is not out of the question because remember, Retro Studios worked on some of the tracks in Mario Kart 7. And we now know that there are F-Zero tracks in Mario Kart 8, so there's that link there that they've got all the assets, so it's going to happen. And another reason I think it's going to happen is that we all know the Wii U, it's just not working out. It's really not selling well. It's never. I'm gonna make this point. It's never going to sell well. I think Nintendo accept that point. Why would you waste your top-selling IP on a system like the Wii U? So obviously Zelda's coming, we know that, but why would you bother investing maybe another 3D Mario onto something like the Wii U when you can save it for the NX? We all know F-Zero is not a game that sells very well, so I think you put your eggs, you separate them into the same baskets. So F-Zero goes in the basket with the unsuccessful system, which is the Wii U, so why not put it out on that? You know you're not going to sell tons of it, so just please the few fans who want the game and put it on Wii U.
That is a very well-reasoned and actually somewhat believable prediction, despite it being about F-Zero, which is really funny.
I worked hard on that, I really did, but yeah.
No, it's totally true. When you think about how Retro were really heavily involved in remaking those old tracks for Mario Kart 7, they have experience in the racing genre now, and as a result, they probably could do some really awesome track design for an F-Zero game. They probably would be able to create a game that is fucking gorgeous, given like their graphical fidelity and the talent they have in that arena from Metroid Prime, and obviously Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze looks gorgeous. There are a lot of kind of ways in which that could all line up, and F-Zero could be coming out of Retro. So yeah, I kind of.
I mean,
agree.
I really do believe in the argument that you save your good eggs for the good systems and your bad eggs for the bad systems.
No, that makes absolute sense. I don't think that there will be a Metroid Prime game or any big Metroid game on this system, because it would make more sense to hold that. Now, if they do a Metroid game on the system, it would probably not be a Prime. It would probably be something more experimental, something a little bit different, and they saved the big gun for the NX. I don't know if Retro have been expanding, if they have a larger team size, if even they're going to split into two teams, but perhaps if they have one kind of subset of their group working on, say, this F-Zero game, the rest of the folks can be, you know, working on stuff at NX and like figuring that system out, hopefully having something in time for launch of that system, which would give it a great, you know, kick out the starting gate, get people excited about it. So yeah, from that perspective,
and I mean,
totally
if it's a super success, well, whatever you would quantify as a success on the Wii U at that stage in its life cycle, we're talking, you know, May 2016.
Yeah.
If it is a success, then just later down the line of the NX, you just say to Retro, right, make another one for the NX, and they can do a few tweaks, changes, see what works, and then yeah, I don't know, we'll see.
Absolutely. All right. Well, there you go, Bali. Those were some solid predictions. My last one is, I think, I wouldn't say it's obvious. I'd say it's probably likely. But I think that there is going to be a remake / remaster / HDification of a game at E3. And there are a few choices I have here.
Is the Pope a Catholic?
Yes. The obvious one that everyone talks about is Mario Sunshine. This makes sense because Wind Waker was obviously a GameCube game of that era, which has been remade and is now beautiful, but it also had lots of issues and lots of problems that people picked apart at over time. Mario Sunshine certainly has its fair share of issues. Let's talk about the motherfucking blue coins, because let me tell you, that doesn't sound like a fun thing to do these days, is to go back to those levels and fucking go and do the blue coin shit, because that was horribly implemented. It was like 20 of the shines, wasn't it? It was something ridiculous.
It was,
you had to get just by trading those things in.
I still need to go back to that game, but yeah, if you wanted to 100%, there were just tons and tons of blue coins scattered throughout every single level that you had to go and find. And
there wasn't really like a good way of categorizing which ones you had, which ones you hadn't.
Nope.
It was a bit of a mess. Like, that is an aspect of that game that really needs to be revisited and rethought through. And additionally, a lot of the coolest levels in those games were the ones which were kind of the precursor to Mario Galaxy, right? You know, those floodless levels. I feel like they could add some more of those and get the EAD Tokyo team to, like, lend a hand there, you know, create some new levels for Mario Sunshine involving, you know, floodless stuff. And that could just prove ultimately a very fruitful endeavor, because we know that Mario Maker is their big Mario game for the holiday probably, but if they had a 3D one, I think it would appease a lot more of the hardcore Nintendo crowd. I think more casual people go after Mario Maker.
I actually think Mario Maker will be more the Bayonetta slot, and then you're going to get Star Fox in that November slot. But that's just
Maybe.
me. But yeah.
Well, in any case, I think Mario Sunshine is more of a kind of niche title for the hardcore people.
Yeah, and I think if that game could look so beautiful in HD.
Oh yeah, totally.
If you thought Wind Waker HD looked good, I think this game could look incredible in HD.
Yeah, so I mean that's the obvious choice. That's a pick there. The other one I would say, in lieu of Zelda not being available at the end of this year, they need to have something to fill that Zelda-shaped hole, and so they are going to do a Twilight Princess / Skyward Sword double pack HD remaster. There are lots of elements of both of those games that they could fix. Stuff with the wolf in Twilight Princess, some of the padding in Skyward Sword at the end could really be cut down. There's lots of kind of thinning that those games kind of require, and they could go through and gut them needs be. And I feel like that is potentially another option. I feel Mario Sunshine's the more likely one, but Twilight Princess / Skyward Sword as a double pack could be a more appealing prospect for the consumer. But then again, we already have Wind Waker on the system. Do they really want to put out 2 more Zelda re-releases? But hey, it's a possibility.
I mean, we've already got 2 on 3DS, so you never know.
You never know. Yeah, you never know. But I think that, yeah, that's where I'm going to put my money. There will be an HD remaster. Will it be one of those? Who knows? It's Nintendo. They fucking do whatever they want. But those are all our major predictions.
I think they were pretty solid. We put a lot of thought into those, didn't we?
Yeah, I think
they
we did
quite good.
better than last year. I feel.
I feel like we're going to get no points again though. Well,
probably will get 0 points again.
Point, but yeah.
Maybe. Before we close this out, let's talk about a crazy prediction if you have one.
Okay.
Bowie.
My crazy prediction, and it's a real shame that this is a crazy prediction, is that we see a fully fledged Zelda trailer at the digital event. It's not playable on the show floor, but it comes out this year.
That is stupid. And it's not going to happen.
That's why it's my crazy prediction.
Yep. Makes absolute sense. You were talking to me earlier about the wording of Zelda.
Yes.
Explain to the audience what your thoughts are here on the wording of their thoughts on Zelda not being in the show.
So there's this idea, and I was actually listening to a political podcast all about the lines that spin doctors tell politicians to use in order to mislead press. So a politician will famously say, a journalist will ask a politician, shadow leader, what's the X party policy on the funding of this road? And then the shadow leader might say, if I were in government today, I would do this.
Okay.
So then when they do end up being in power and they do something different, and the journalist says, you said your policy on this was to do that. And then he said, the shadow leader can say, look at the transcript carefully, see what I said. And the nuance is that he said, if I was in power right now, this is what I would do. He didn't actually say my policy on this is. So there's really careful language that politicians use, just as much as these big companies like Nintendo. And I just feel that by the digital event is so removed from E3 in a way that saying that something isn't at E3 can definitely mean the physical space of E3. So that definitely does rule out it being on the show floor. I definitely don't think it rules out a trailer. That's my ethos behind it.
Okay. I don't believe it, but that's because I want
some points if there's a Zelda trailer, is what I'm saying.
Look, I will give you 2 million points if there's a Zelda trailer. So you will win by default if there is one. Alright, so my stupid prediction, it's the thing that every journalist tells Nintendo they should do, which they're still probably not going to do. It's called Nintendo Library. It's a subscription-based virtual console thing. You pay every month, get access to all the Virtual Console stuff. Of course, if you own a new 3DS and Wii U, you have all the cross-play, all the cross-save functionality with the new membership plan. It's a utopia, should I say, of all their back catalog, and everyone gets to drink in the garden of Nintendo's library, and it's a fun time. So, yep.
Wait. So how's it different to Virtual Console? I'm a bit confused.
No, it's a subscription-based thing.
I see.
So you pay a monthly fee, and for that monthly fee, you get access to all the Virtual Console catalog, or a portion, or whatever. Like, they could siphon it off, so it's like this many games you get access to, or whatever, but you pay that monthly fee, and it doesn't mean you have to, like, spend individual amounts on games. You just download whatever game you want to play at whatever time. And that's how it would work. So you just always have access to the library. And that's why it's the Nintendo library. Yay, books, reading, education.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, but yeah, it's interesting.
No, yeah, yep. Both just shrug off each other's stupid predictions because they're stupid. Okay, well, that pretty much rounds us up for our prediction part of the show, but we did ask you folk to email us about some of yours, and we got some good responses. So, Bali, how about we dip into those?
Yeah, so we got an email from Zvari, who listed a lot of their E3 predictions.
Do you want to go through these one by one and kind of comment as we go?
Yeah, a quick comment on each one, maybe?
Yeah, that
sure.
Sounds like
So
a good idea.
number one, we will see the next round of DLC for Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, Splatoon. Nintendo wants people to keep playing these games, and DLC is the best way to do so.
I 100% agree. That is it's a safe prediction, but it's a good one. I'm not sure on the Mario Kart end. I'm a bit more skeptical there. I feel like they kind of exhausted their engine, if you wish, and they are going to they're going to focus more on Smash Brothers. Of course, like recently, we just got the announcement that Sakurai is hosting like a 20-minute Smash Brothers based thing on the Sunday. So there's going to be talk of Lucas there. There's maybe going to be some more reveals of characters there. Maybe they'll hold that for their digital event. Who knows what their kind of plan is with Smash Brothers, but Smash Brothers is still a big deal. The fact that they are closing off a solid 20 minutes removed from their digital event just to talk about Smash Brothers stuff, it's a huge part of their plan going forward, and they absolutely will talk about Smash Brothers DLC. Splatoon, I think they need to maybe wait a little on this. I'm not 100% guaranteed that they're going to be talking Splatoon DLC at E3. I feel like it's more likely they're going to go after that stuff once all the features they promised are going to be added after August. So maybe later, like around Christmas, they'll have a direct talking about Splatoon moving forward. But yeah, Smash Brothers, absolutely. What do you feel, Bally, here?
Yeah, I agree with you. I do think it's maybe too early for Splatoon. Smash Brothers very likely, obviously, with that announcement of the mini sort of direct thing. Mario Kart 8, I'm quietly confident there'll be another pack or two. I just tweeted this a little while ago, but I said, like, 5 years ago, would you ever have imagined that Nintendo would have 3 semi-successful online games, one of which was a fighter, one that was a shooter, and one that was a racing game? Like, it is unbelievable how far Nintendo have come with those 3 games. And DLC, another word that you didn't really associate with Nintendo, and now we're talking about all of that all rolled into one. It's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Right. Number 2, Mario Maker will include an 8-world campaign similar to regular 2D Mario game. This will make the game seem like more than just a creative tool and will drive sales.
I agree with this. I think that Nintendo do need to add some sort of single-player, developer-created campaign, because let's be honest, the majority of people who buy this are not going to be the ones creating levels for it. You know, that's a very kind of small community that will be very passionate about it and will create a lot of great stuff, I'm sure, but when it launches, that stuff won't exist, and I feel you need to have something there, at least for the launch, where people won't have anything to play otherwise, because if they just throw it out there and there's nothing, like, what are people going to do? If they don't want to make levels, they're not going to play it until there are levels available. So that's why I think there has to be a campaign.
I would kind of think that they might just throw in a few levels that the creators made. I don't think there will be a formal 8-world campaign personally.
Okay.
And I think overnight you'll just see thousands upon thousands of stages getting created, and I really hope that there will be a really good ranking system that I say 24 hours after the game's launched. I think there will already be at least 8 worlds worth of really solid, innovative levels that people will already be playing. I think it might be eating their own tail a bit to create their own, spend so much time on their own world, personally. But
all right,
all will
we'll
be
see.
revealed.
Sure.
Point number 3, next level games and Retro Studios projects will be revealed. I don't know what they are going to be, but they are going to be announced. Maybe Metroid ? Well, I think we're kind of we agree. We're kind of siding on next level, going for 2D Metroid, and retro on F-Zero. That's our broad speculation, but I guess we'll see. Anything to add, MZ?
Not really. Yep.
So,
Metroid.
Number 4, a game will be announced for Wii U that will be released in late May of 2016. I say this because E3 2013 had Mario Kart 8 and 2014 had Splatoon. What this will be, I don't know. Maybe one of Next Level Games or Retro Studios projects. Well, that's kind of tying in with the other one. I'm thinking that game's F-Zero. Do you want to have a guess at what you think that game might be, MBZ?
It has to be a big title that entices a lot of people. Like Mario Kart 8 and Splatoon, these both kind of similar games in the sense that they're multiplayer, they're online, they're kind of family friendly. And I'm not sure.
Animal Crossing?
Yeah, you know what? If they were to announce an Animal Crossing, the May window would be perfect for that. So I'll probably put my money on that. I don't think Animal Crossing makes it out this year. I think it makes it out for the May slot for next year.
If Animal Crossing budges out F-Zero, I'm gonna kill someone. Like
Bally,
heads will roll.
Why such drastic action? That's like this is the real world we live in.
Animal Crossing. But anyway, point number 5: Star Fox for Wii U will be delayed for the second half of 2016. We really haven't seen any of the game, and I'm worried about its progress. It'll still be released before Zelda, though.
If Star Fox doesn't come out this year, I have no fucking clue what Nintendo are doing in terms of their content. Like, I 100% agree with him in the sense that we literally have not seen a single screenshot even of Star Fox. Like, we've seen fucking nothing, and yet it's expected to come out this year? Like, it's going to be revealed at E3. Yeah. But I don't know, it's a little bit worrying.
Are you going with Mario Maker for big Christmas game?
I see. I think if they're going to announce a big Christmas game, it's going to be a thing they announce at E3 and is going to be out before the end of the year. I don't think Star Fox or Mario Maker fill that slot.
I think Star Fox is going to be that Christmas game. I think like 3D World, it's going to be a quick turnaround. There's going to be a okayish trailer. We're going to get an awesome trailer late in the summer, and it's going to come out in November. That's what I think.
It's a good timeline.
6. Fire Emblem If will have a roundtable showcase. E3 2013 had one for Pokemon XY, and 2014 had one for Codename Steam. Fire Emblem seems like the biggest 3DS game that they have right now, so a roundtable seems appropriate.
Nintendo have a tradition of kind of staggering their announcements throughout the E3 week. They don't blow their load at the digital event necessarily. They'll have the Treehouse Live where they'll announce stuff, and then of course these roundtables, which traditionally over the past couple of years have been for 3DS games, because when it comes to the digital event, it's generally console focused, and that's the way that E3 generally goes, is they focus on the kind of home console games, and the handhelds get shoved to the side a little bit. I don't know if it will be on Fire Emblem. I mean, it's
going to be Next Level's 2D Metroid, definitely.
Yes.
Has to be.
That's a good point.
Faith.
I think that is a good place to reveal that game, and have a good discussion about it. Like Codename Steam was a brand new thing that no one knew about. That would be perfect. Although with Metroid being Metroid, I do think that there is a value to having it in the digital event, as opposed to this side thing. But who knows? It's always exciting for those roundtables, and the other thing about it is they generally don't live stream that stuff. So it's the one time where I'm like sitting on Nintendo World Report as they literally type a blog as it comes in real time, like from them. And
the good old fashioned days of the internet.
Yeah, it just reminds me of like the old days of like how people would get their news from E3.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it no matter what it is.
So, final point. Animal Crossing Wii U will be announced and released this holiday season. It will have its own amiibo line and will have some sort of capability with Happy Home Designer on the 3DS. This is a stretch, but Nintendo needs something else to push holiday sales. New Leaf was a success, and Animal Crossing seems like something that can be shelled out in time. Keep up the great podcast, guys.
Okay, yeah, Animal Crossing, as we said, I think it's going to be the May release window of 2016, but so many people are predicting this, despite the fact that the holiday happy homey ham designer is announced for 3DS.
I'm gonna say again, I think back to that good egg, bad egg scenario, Animal Crossing in terms of sales is a good egg. I think it's gonna be saved till NX personally.
So you wouldn't want them to basically waste it on dying platform.
Exactly. I think broadly speaking, a quick calendar for me would be that sort of early autumn slot is Mario Maker, big holiday title is Star Fox, big May title with the online multiplayer is going to be F-Zero, and Christmas next year is Zelda. And I think those are the biggest games we're going to see of the Wii U's life cycle, and beyond that, that's
well. Now, don't forget about Xenoblade, son.
Of course.
But of course, that's not going to sell any systems.
No, and it's unfortunately it is a bad egg, but the Wii U seems so suitable for a game like Xenoblade Cross.
Sure.
So
absolutely,
it's great.
All right. Well, thank you, Zvari, for those. Those are great predictions. Certainly interesting stuff that we didn't cover. So. Thank you for those. What's our next email?
Quick one from Sullivan, just to add a bit of realism to our fantasies here. My prediction for E3 is one I'm 100% sure will happen, and that is disappointment. Have a great day. So, I must say, if my plans come to fruition, I'm going to be one happy camper, and that's kind of the reason that they're part of my plans. So, yeah, to add a bit of salt to the party, perhaps. I definitely think that stuff like we've mentioned, like for me, F-Zero coming out next year, I think is highly unlikely, but gotta have hope. So yeah.
Disappointment and E3 are basically the same word. Let's be honest. So look it up in a dictionary, guys. You'll see the entry there, the translation. Yep, pretty much.
So, our final email on E3 is from Nagi, and I'm just going to go through some of his bullet points one by one that we can have a quick discussion about, and then we can wrap it up. So,
sure.
Nagi says there's going to be a Retro going to busting out a full-scale, open-world, open-plane, open solar system, Metroid Prime 4, No Man's Sky scale, but with the Metroid universe, pre-built planets in which you get to explore about the size of Prime 1's Talon 4.
That's an astronomical prediction.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. And if that game exists, I would push it back to NX as well. I mean, that's a very negative thing to say, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's an awesome idea, and I think it's one that I'm sure a few people have suggested before. But
it just sounds like your typical fanboy
like
kind of. It sounds like, just a fan writing out the famous, like, oh, my video game's going to be 1 million things wide and you can go everywhere and do everything,
Yeah.
But it's, I like games like that. I'm playing The Witcher, which is practically that, but for a fantasy world, so there you go.
Next point, Golden Sun 3DS sequel, since Camelot aren't doing anything, would probably be relegated to 3DS Real or Treehouse segment.
Now, if you don't know Nagi, he's a huge fan of Golden Sun, so he always mentions it when everyone else forgets that it exists.
What's Golden Sun?
But, I don't know, it's this game, it's RPG, you go around.
Next point, contrary
No, I actually think that this is pretty likely, in the sense that it may be like kind of a trailer reel thing. They may not focus too much on it, but Camelot are done with their Mario Tennis game on 3DS, they're done with their Mario Golf game on 3DS, what else are they going to do? And I think another RPG on 3DS would work extremely well. Bravely Default was a huge success. Fire Emblem Awakening was a huge success. I think Golden Sun would push units. It would be great for the February 2016 window. And I think that that's a smart prediction, and it may well happen. I'd love to see a Treehouse segment on it as well. So Golden Sun's one of those series that I need to go back to, play the old games of, and I will be doing that soon.
On the Virtual Console on Wii U.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next point. Contrary to popular belief, Nintendo will keep to their word, not show anything Zelda related, whether it be a random trailer during the World Championships or just in the Direct in general. If they do in fact show a Zelda trailer, they set this untrustworthy precedent on themselves. I don't think as a company they would want.
That's an interesting way to look at it, in the sense that Nintendo have made their point.
They're already untrustworthy. Look at them. They say, "Here's Zelda. It's coming out 2015," and then it's not. Like, I don't.
That's a good point. At the Game Awards, Miyamoto was like, "Oh, it's coming out this year." Yeah.
So many delays, and then I mean that Mario Kart DLC Pack 2 came early, so I mean there's nothing to say that what they've said in the past means it's set in stone. Personally. And I've already said my spiel on Zelda.
Yeah,
and
we've already kind of covered
the politics of it all. But yeah.
Sure.
Anything to add, MZ?
No, let's move on.
So next point, Xenoblade Cross is definitely being shown again this year. If Xenoblade Cross's treehouse footage but still shows the Japanese version instead of a localized build, that is a slow sign of slow development. I think that means a sure sign of slow development, and that might hint to it not coming in 2015. That is a very good point Nagi makes. I sure hope there's an English-speaking character.
I think they have to. I think they really have to show that at this point. I don't know like how far along the localization is. I don't actually know who is localizing it. It may be a Treehouse in Studio Project, which would make sense because it is a first-party title. But 8.4 localized Fire Emblem Awakening, and that's a first-party title as well. Who knows? There's a lot of work that has to go in there because it is fully voice acted, and there is probably more text in that game than any Nintendo game that will come out this year. So, I'm going to be afraid if they get to the Treehouse segment and it's still all in Japanese. But we'll see.
But hey, if I have to wait a little longer to play another 90-hour game, then that's all right with me.
You need a bit of a break. You need a bit of a break. That's true.
Next prediction. Pokken Tournament will reveal a character in time for its July release date, maybe 2. Still no console release date time frame due to how Bandai Namco deals with fighting games and their arcade releases.
I don't think this will be talked about.
I agree. I don't think anything arcade related relates to home console or 3DS or sales in that sense, and I don't think it's going to be mentioned.
I think the only way they talk about it is if they announce it to come out on Wii U this year, and it's going to be a big holiday title. And I think this actually has the potential to fill a slot as a big holiday title because it's Pokemon and because it's on a home console. It kind of fits in the Smash Brothers realm of possibility as a fighter, so it's that is a potential thing. But the way that the arcade releases work in Japan is very unlikely that it'll be out this year, let alone in English and like in North America or Europe. So, yep.
Next point from Nagi. This year's holiday title will be revealed to either be Star Fox or Treasure Tracker 2. I can't think of anything else they could release in that time frame for the Wii U or something they can create in time for November.
Well, I wouldn't really necessarily think along the lines of create something in time for November, because usually what Nintendo do is they hold back an announcement for something that is scheduled for November, like Mario 3D World, which they then announce at E3.
What do we think EAD Tokyo are working on? We've not really said that.
No, we haven't, and I think they're kind of...
I'm going to go with Star Fox.
No, I think the messaging around EAD Tokyo is that they are working on the next new Mario game, but it's probably going to be on the next system, and that they are holding it back at the moment and for NX as opposed to being on Wii U. And I don't think that team is on Star Fox. I think they've found a different team at Nintendo to work on that game.
Okay.
And I feel like it wouldn't fit with them and fit with what they have experience on. So I highly doubt that's the team that's working on Star Fox with Miyamoto. I think it's a different group of people.
Just to reiterate, you think the big Christmas game this year
is something they haven't announced yet.
Okay.
I think it's going to be what Nagi says is like the holiday title is going to be revealed as a thing. I don't think it's Star Fox. I don't think it's Treasure Tracker 2. I do, however, think that EAD Tokyo are probably working on something like Treasure Tracker in the sense that they're going to release another smaller scale Mario style game. That's more of a spin-off.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. It's a great world. It looks great. The music's great. I'd love to get back into that world that isn't just another Mario platformer, but something.
I certainly think that
interesting.
studio has the resources to put out another smaller game like that and still be working on the new NX Mario game.
And then the final point
yep.
from Nagi, and this is a very valid one. There will be nothing being developed or published for the Wii U from Activision, Ubisoft, or EA's front.
Yep. Pretty much. Welcome to the Wii U. Third parties beware. Get out of here. You're not welcome. Yep.
That is, I'm sure, like, whether the NX can fix that for the next generation will be a whole other topic in the future of this podcast.
That's a bloody different can of beans, I'll tell you.
I think we've said a lot already about the lack of third parties on Nintendo platforms.
Yes, indeed. So on that sobering thought, let's wrap this show up. Thank you, as always, for listening, and I'm excited for E3, Bally. It's going to be a fun one. There's going to be lots of stuff happening. There are more E3 press conferences this year than there ever have been. I am going to be watching stuff for a long time. It's going to be a great time, and I know you're looking forward to it as well. So
yeah, it's going to be good, and we should make clear that we're going to do another special podcast as quickly as possible, straight after the digital event on Tuesday the 16th of June. So that's going to hopefully come out in the evening or the following day, isn't it, MBZ?
Yeah, I'm going to try and get a quick turnaround on that one. It may be a little later for recording because Square Enix's press conference is directly after Nintendo's, and I do want to watch that, so we may be a little bit of a crossover happening there, but I'll aim to get it out for the end of the Nintendo press conference day, and you should have that in your feeds as soon as possible. Yeah, we'll find out if we were wrong or right on these ridiculous predictions we made.
Hey, I really enjoyed sort of just talking about these ideas and what we think is going to happen, what might happen, and yeah, it's going to be interesting because this is a really kind of uncertain year for what's ahead.
Absolutely, it's a bit of a weird one, but I'm sure there will be surprises. If Nintendo do anything, they basically turn the table upside down. So I await that moment. I'm sure it will be a wonderful one. But before we go, let's plug ourselves and plug stuff that's coming in the future. Of course, we have our soon-to-be new segment, new part of the show called the Backlog Club, for which we are playing The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. Bally, I know you're going to start that soon, and we are aiming to talk about that sometime after E3, maybe a couple of shows after E3 we will go for a discussion of that, and so if you are playing through that, do keep going with it, try and finish it as soon as you possibly can, and then send us some emails and your thoughts on the game and stuff that you like about it, stuff you didn't like about it.
Send us tweets of how you're getting along with it if you are playing along with us, and I'm trying to start this little hashtag on the go, hashtag Backlog Club. So yeah, if you have anything to say about the Minish Cap, do use the hashtag the Backlog Club.
All right, sounds good. Where can they follow that Twitter account, Bally?
The Twitter account for our podcast is at TNL Podcast. That's at TNL Podcast. If you want all our updates on when the shows are coming out, any videos we're making between, all that good stuff, you want to be following that account.
And of course, there's our email as well, which is thisnintendolife@gmail.com. So you can send us your Minish Cap kind of progress reports, I guess, as you go along with that game, to that email address. You can also find us on the internet. I'm at Lordnbz on Twitter. You can find me also on the Miiverse. Lordnbz is the name there too. What about you, Bally?
I'm at Ballyman91, BALLYMAN91. I've passed 200 followers, MBZ.
Oh, joy,
it's a
joyous
happy day. So thank you everyone out there who has been following me. It's pretty awesome having 200 followers. Yeah, so let's keep up that Twitter train along with the E3 hype train that's overtaking it.
It's nothing overtakes the E3 hype train.
It's not stopping.
It never does. Of course, you can always find the show on iTunes. It's where all the episodes are kept, and you'll get it there first. It's always the YouTube version that comes out a little bit later. I'm aiming to get both of the versions up early for this episode, though, because we do want people to hear it before the actual show happens, so that you can.
That won't bother you because you're already listening to it.
Yeah, exactly. You're already listening to this part right now. So wherever you're listening, yeah, you're on time, I guess. Well, unless you're
No,
listening
you're
to this
late.
sometime
You're late.
in 2017.
You've not
So
listened
who
to it
knows?
yet.
Who knows when someone's listening to this, Bally? Podcasts are timeless, as they say. You can also find us on Stitcher. It's an app on the phones. If you don't like iTunes, Stitcher is a good place to find us. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back very, very soon with our Nintendo reactions to the press conference / digital event / whatever the fuck they do. And yeah, thanks for listening. See you guys next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
The musical interlude used in today's show was The Fields of Ard Skellig from The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Copyright CD Projekt Red 2015. Hello?
Hello? Why have we stopped for a reason?
No, we're not stopped.
Oh,
What are you talking about?
You said, I'm going to go in with the first one, and then you went silent.
No, I said I'm going to give you the
Oh,
honor of starting... Were you listening?
I thought you were like, alright, I'm gonna go first.
No,
And
no,
like, okay,
I said I'm
going
going to give you the honour of doing the first prediction, and then you just go silent. I'm like, what the fuck? Oh, God. Right, just jump in with your...
I'm just gonna start and say, my first prediction is, right?
Yes,
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Alright.
Right.